Hey, what do you say today? I have something special for you. So last summer, summer 2024, I have the great experience of going to Japan. It's been a bucket list place for me to visit. I got the opportunity to go because my wife was chaperoning a trip with her school, and she asked me if I wanted to go as kind of like an extra adult, and I said 1,000,000%. So decided we'd pay for it and I would go, and it would be the trip I've always wanted to go on, and got to experience a lot of things. I took some incredible pictures, so I want to go over those today. Kind of talk to you about my experience, what we saw, and how everything was and that kind of stuff. So to start off with, it's 13-hour difference from where I live. So the first day or two was rough. Waking up at 7 in the morning and it being 6 o'clock at night where I'm used to living was very weird for our bodies for the first day or two. So it took us a while to get adapted. The flight wasn't so bad. I thought it would be worse, but it wasn't too bad. So let's go over some photos and we'll talk about kind of our experience and what we saw and how everything was. So we started out, we spent 3 days in Tokyo. We saw a lot of temples and shrines. You can see here, this is one of the main shrines in Tokyo. It's a Buddhist, it's actually not a shrine, it's a temple. There's a difference. This is a very populated temple. It's a very popular one. There's lots of shops and lots of touristy things to do. But this is the second gate that you see here. If you go past the gate that you see and go down, there's the main gate, and in between those two gates there's a bunch of street vendors, street food, little souvenir trinket shops. And right behind us is the main temple. There's no photos allowed in the temple or shrines of any kind, so you'll see a lot of pictures of these from outside the temple. I didn't want to be that tourist that took pictures inside of a place where they told you not to take pictures. Shocking. This was probably the worst weather day that we had. It rained all day. It rained all day long. And it was very wet, lots of umbrellas, very soggy shoes, but it's also the rain season, so that's to be expected. I would say we got very lucky. You'll see in some of the other photos that we got very lucky with our weather for the entire trip. We were expecting days like this for most of the trip, but it actually turned out to be absolutely wonderful weather. So the next day we took a little bit of a trip to Odaiba. There it is, Odaiba. Odaiba is a little island they made during World War II, or they used during World War II. But it's a little man-made island that they made it, but they never ended up using it, and this was further back in history too. So then they decided to make it a little amusement park kind of place. So as you can see here, there's a gigantic Gundam. There's a person standing there on the ground as kind of a perspective of how big this thing is. It was absolutely gigantic. And this is not even the biggest one there. There is a bigger one, not in Odaiba, but somewhere else. And that one moves, which is crazy to think about. This one does have some mechanical parts that do move. The face mask of the Gundam closes, the knee pads move around and that kind of stuff. Nothing too crazy, but about every hour or so it does its thing. That was pretty cool to see. We stood out in front of it. As you can see, it was a gorgeous day there. People are in short sleeve shirts and shorts. It was absolutely phenomenal. Odaiba also has an indoor amusement park, which was really fun. I didn't go to it because I wanted to spend time with other people that were there and they didn't want to go. So we just ate food, had delicious ice cream instead, which I think was probably the better option. Then we went to Kamakura, and the big Buddha of Kamakura. This Buddha was literally in the middle of nowhere. Like, I can't explain. We went down the street, we parked the bus, and we get out, we cross the street, we walk through this like little temple area, and then boom, there's this gigantic Buddha there. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was a little bit overcast and cloudy that day, which made it great for pictures, obviously. So I took this picture kind of off the main path. You can see the main path a little bit, but the overall like place was just magical. There's nothing but trees and mountains around it, and there's just this big Buddha there, and it was just something to behold. It was quite a magical place. Probably my favorite Buddha that we saw, if I remember correctly. Probably my favorite location. One of my favorite locations in the entire trip. This was the scenery around it. So behind the Buddha, there was this like valley area. It had a bunch of flowers and bridges and like rivers and streams. I just thought this picture was pretty, so I snapped the picture, and it was just gorgeous that day. So I know, look at me, I'm a dork. But we went to Enoshino Island, and this was not part of our original plan of the trip, but our tour guide, Alex, was incredible. So the hat I'm wearing is actually from Japan. You'll see it in a couple other my videos. That is a denim hat. They have particular types of denim regionally in Japan, and I bought a hat there, and I just love it, and I wear it all the time. Everything there is blue, so everything's blue themed. So you can see I got a lemonade, which was blue. I got a donut. Funny story. The entire trip, this is day 3 of our trip, I want to say. Day 3 of our trip, and for some reason, I was craving donuts. I have no idea why, but I was craving a donut. So the tour guide said there's a place here where you can get a blueberry, it was vanilla, a blue icinged donut. And everybody on the trip that knew I was craving donuts was like asking me, did you have the donut yet? Did you have the donut yet? So eventually I got one. I got it later in the day because we went out on a hike. There's beautiful scenery around the island, and the lunch there was great. I had something called white bait, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's bait, and it's a seasonal thing. I couldn't get it raw, but I got it cooked, and it was just as good. Got it with a rice bowl, and it was absolutely amazing. One of the things I was very, very impressed about was their food quality, their food presentation. They don't lack anything, and they put everything into everything that they do. So I've tried different things there that I've never tried before because when in Rome. So I had this white bait, which is very tiny, like super, super tiny little pieces of fish that you can eat raw, and they're a little like clear. They're clear when they're raw, and then they're white when they're cooked. And it was delicious. So I'm glad I tried it. Our tour guide always said there's something, everywhere we went, they said there was something we needed to try. And for the most part, I did. Not necessarily the most exploratory when it comes to food. I like certain foods, but like having a raw fish kind of is off-putting for the most part. But I had it, I enjoyed it. Had some raw salmon while there, and it was utterly incredible. So that butterfly, moth thing that you see, this was when we went to Mount Fuji, which you'll see some incredible pictures of Mount Fuji in a minute. Our hotel, though, was the haunted hotel. It was insane. It was a hotel straight out of the 1970s, and it hasn't been updated. The rooms were gigantic, but like, at what cost? They were very like, The Shining was filmed in these. And we were joking, we had a sake tasting party there after all the kids were curfew and the adults were out. And we were talking about how some of the rooms feel like there's someone living in the walls, or the artwork in the rooms are just so outdated, they're creepy. Like the carpet was green, like it was just very outdated. The bathrooms were outdated. Everything about it was just creepy, right? But the scenery and the location that we had was breathtaking. I mean, come on. That's Mount Fuji, for those of you who don't know. Just a random mountain in Japan. Not just a random mountain, the biggest mountain in Japan. That was the view from where we had breakfast. I mean, the hotel itself was haunted, or what seemed to be haunted, but with a view like that, you can't go wrong. I said when we got really lucky with weather, there's not many days that you can see Mount Fuji, and that picture kind of explains it all. So we went to the sulfur fields by Mount Fuji, and again, look at the weather. The weather was fantastic. So we were able to I took another picture of Mount Fuji from where we were located, and it was stunning. This picture does not do it justice, but I can tell you that it was one of the most incredible sights I've seen in probably my entire life. But the other reason why we were there is because of the sulfur fields. That gas that you see is legitimate sulfur. It smelled like a really bad fart. It was definitely a change in air quality when we were there. The air quality there was interesting. But yeah, it felt like we were getting hotboxed all day. But yeah, you could see like yellow ground all over the place. It smelled like sulfur. They had this thing called sulfur hard-boiled eggs. Basically, they boil their hard-boiled eggs in sulfur water, so the egg turns black. It looks disgusting. It tastes like a hard-boiled egg. It's nothing special. It's just black from the sulfur. There's also sulfur ice cream, which is vanilla ice cream, basically just black, and it stains your teeth black. So that was pretty funny. A lot of the kids enjoyed that. They were taking photos of everything from there. They were just like, ew, this is disgusting, and so on and so forth. But they all enjoyed it. It was a good time. Smelled bad. Everything looked great. It was a really cool experience. So we took what they call the Shinkansen, or the bullet train from Tokyo to Osaka, which is kind of where we are now. So during the trip, my wife was scrapbooking. She's an art teacher, so there we go. So she took a scrapbook of the things of that day that we were in Mount Fuji. So she's up there. You can see the top of the picture. You can see the black egg and the ice cream. You can see a sticker that we got. My wife saved stickers and receipts from shops that we went to, and she put them in the scrapbook and talked about what we saw there. And she made this gorgeous scrapbook that looked super cool and a really cool memory piece that we have. So when we went to Osaka, we went to the Golden Pavilion. This is probably one of my favorite photos. This looks like a postcard. I did it. I made this picture. I took it. I made this picture. Listen to me. I took this picture. The one thing I would say about the tour is we saw a lot of things, so we didn't have as much time in locations as I wanted to. Golden Pavilion is that perfect example. We learned a lot about the Golden Pavilion and what it was used for, but then we walked around the grounds, and that was all we had time for. We didn't really have time to shop or really kind of explore the Golden Pavilion because we had to go other places. The other places I'll show you are on the next couple slides, but Osaka was probably my favorite place to visit while we were there. So we went to, at this point, this was a palace for the emperor at the time, and this has the musical floor. So when you're walking, the floor is all wooden and it creaks and it makes a little sound. They did this for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of reasons were if they did get invaded, they would know where the enemy was at all times. So that way they could hear the floors and kind of understand where they are in location in the palace. So that was really cool. It was gorgeous. Obviously we took our shoes off there, you're supposed to. And it was just it was a really cool. It was a little walking path. They had beautiful murals on the wall, and they kind of talked about the whole like shogun emperor dynamic, and this is where, you know, a lot of things happened at that time in Japan, because Osaka used to be the capital city, so a lot of the stuff happened in Osaka during that time. And then we went to the Nishiki market. This was probably one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. So besides from Japan being one of the safest countries in the world, one of the kids actually lost their phone here and didn't actually lose it. Someone reported it back and took it to the police station, and later that night we were able to get it. If that happened in the States, that phone would be lost forever. But anyway, I don't know if you can see it in this picture, but this is Nishiki Market, and you can see all the lights, and this is just miles and miles of street food, street vendors, trinkets, you know, luggage, all kinds of like touristy things. Some of the great things we had there were tempura crab legs, raw oysters, which I'm not kidding you were like this freaking gigantic. Raw oysters, fried oysters. We had cherry blossom beer at the time there. That was really good. There's a couple other combinations of beer. We probably spent about $20 worth in food there, and we got a ton of food, like a ton of food. In the States, we'd probably get about 2 things for the amount we spent, but we got like cookies and coffee there. We got crab legs. I tried eel, quail egg, oysters for the first time. Yeah, it was quite the day of food. But yeah, Nishiki Market was great. This was not supposed to be on the tour, but the tour guide's like, you guys have to go to this place. So he took us kind of off the beaten path, and we went to the Nishiki Market. We spent a couple hours there, and it was a great time. And then we went to another little like offshoot island. This is there's all these posts and shrines here. Forget the name of it off the top of my head right now, but this place was gorgeous. Very crowded, so unfortunately you're always going to take pictures with people in the way. But this place was unbelievable. And I wish I could have spent more time there, but it was just too crowded. I was very tired. I was starting to feel the trip a little bit. We're about halfway through the trip at this point, and it was rough, but it was beautiful by itself, so it was kind of worth the struggle to get through the people and all the walking and all that kind of stuff. And then we went to the bamboo forest, and let me tell you, everything here was literally tainted green, and it was breathtaking. You'll see a picture in a couple slides about how many people there were here. You didn't notice it because it was just so tall and vast, and bamboo was everywhere, and it's actually an invasive species of plant, so this just developed over time and became what it is now. But generally bamboo is something that grows invasively and just doesn't stop growing unless you really get into where the roots are, and so over time this kind of just took over and became what it's now known for as the bamboo forest. There are these little totems and statues all over the place here, and this is a wedding, because people can do weddings and depictions of like engagements and other part of festivities here. But these were kind of littered all over, not littered, but they were kind of placed all over the place in the bamboo forest. And I thought these were really cute. But it was a really nice place. But I mean, look how gigantic these bamboo shoots are. And like you can see, these are people standing. So just imagine how tall that is when you're seeing it in real time. It just, there's something about it that's so magical that when you walk around in it, you just see nothing but tall bamboo shoots that seem to go on forever. And it was just such a nice, beautiful day there. This picture here is actually around the bamboo forest. The tour guide took us to this coffee place that he really enjoyed, and it was phenomenal coffee. And the scenery was great. we're sitting on benches right outside of this place, and there's like a river that flows and waterfalls in the nearby area, and people take little gondola boats and they push them down the river, and people can take tours of the river, and people fish there, and it was really cool to see. There's a couple waterfalls nearby, and sitting there with a cup of coffee on a nice, beautiful day, watching people take little boat trips, and in such a magical place. It was something to behold. Then we went to my wife's favorite place, Nora. So this temple and shrine area is known for their deer. So in the States, we have a ton of deer. None of them act anything like the deer that act here. These deer bow to you. You can feed them. They walk right up to you, and they are magical. So they kind of adapt to the area, and they'll bow, and you can feed them. You can buy little cookies for them that are healthy for them, and they hang around. They mill around. You can touch them, take photos with them. There's a video that I have on my phone of my wife feeding them and bowing to them, and they're bowing to her, and it's just a really cool scene overall. But yeah, I took this picture because this is kind of all over the place here. There are little things that people donate, and it goes to the temples and the shrines there. It's got all kinds of scripture and all kinds of stuff there. So that was pretty cool. When we got up there to one of the shrines, there's this big golden lantern area, which I thought was really pretty. Hard to get a really good picture, but that's the best I could do because I couldn't stand directly in front of it. So again, Nora, I mean, look how close I am to a deer. It's just standing there, wanting to get a picture taken. It was just unbelievable. So in Nora, they have the world's biggest Buddha. They also have, I think it's a 30-foot Buddha. It's gigantic. They also have the world's tallest man-made wooden structure. That'll be the next picture. But this is the first gate when you walk in, and then you can see a little bit in the picture there beyond the trees. There's a big temple there, and this is the temple. For sheer size, that is a normal person, and all of those pillars and everything there is made out of wood. A funny story is the two golden serpents up top were designed to protect it from lightning, from being struck by lightning and burning down and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, it has burned down multiple times, so that doesn't really do what its purpose is. But inside of here is the Buddha, and the Buddha goes from the ground probably to about 30 to 40 feet up, and it is just absolutely gigantic. But it's very pretty, and seeing this all made out of wood is just an absolute sight to behold. We went to another island. I forget the name of this island off the top of my head. But this little podium shrine is actually in the water, and it's not embedded into the ground. The way it was constructed and the weight of it, generally speaking, doesn't need any support in the water. So it doesn't need to be dug into the ground at all. It was just planted there, and it stays there. It's it. It just stays there. And as the tide comes in and out, more is exposed and less is exposed based on the tides. I think they say the tide goes about 10 feet in difference here, so you can see 10 feet more or less of that as the day goes on based on the tides. And then we went to Himeji Castle. This castle was breathtaking. This was on the second last day of our trip. It was a very long day. We spent a lot of the day on the bus, so we were traveling back to Tokyo. So on the way back, we stopped at the Himeji Castle, and we went all the way to the top. So where those windows are up top, we climbed up to the top, and you could see the surrounding area from there. I didn't have a good picture to show you because there's just not a lot to see, but the view is very nice. Big courtyard in the front, and just a general overall, the site is really cool. The castle climbing up was a burden. Very steep steps. You have to watch your head every time you're going up and down. It was very hard to get up and down that castle, but it was worth it. There's another picture of it. There's a courtyard right where we're standing. And this is kind of the main castle. The rest of it's like big walls and lots of steps to go up. And this was a very highly contested castle based on location. But it was also the hardest to take over, and you can tell that because of how steep the steps were, how narrow the corridors were. Trying to invade and take over this castle was basically impossible. So this is one of the last days that we were there. And this is one of the courtyards. This is the last picture, but this is one of the last courtyards that we saw there. And this has a fountain in it, and there's a big garden around that whole area, and this was just absolutely stunning. Again, it was another beautiful day. There's a little bit of rain in the morning, but it stopped, and it was just picturesque scenery and everything else. So, what did I think of my trip? Well, it was life-changing. The way people act in Japan is totally different than how they act in the States. They love each other's freedom, which is very different here in the States. My freedom in the States is being able to talk as loud as I want, wherever I want, to whomever I want, in any location, right? In Japan, it's very quiet. They respect each other's privacy. They respect each other's thoughts and emotions. Politics is not talked about much there. If you're religious or not, that's not really talked about there. But it's very quiet. When you're on the subway, you don't talk. When you're walking down the streets, you talk to the person next to you, but that's about it. It's definitely culture shocking when you think about it. One other thing that I respect about the culture is they are not westernized on purpose. They feel like if you're going to come here to visit, you're going to get the full experience. So you are going to have to at least try to understand the language or figure it out or have somebody help you. They do not press people there to know English. People where we were is very touristy, so like a lot of the people did at least understand or speak good enough English to help you find something or anything like that. But I would say overall, if you're going to go, know some Japanese, Duolingo it up, Rosetta Stone, whatever you want to do. It will help you tremendously on your trip. Food was immaculate. Nothing there is imported. So if it's not in season, you just don't have it. They don't grab it from somewhere else. Everything is done local. Everything is done fresh. Their standards for food are a lot higher than they are in the US. For example, you can actually go to a raw egg bar in Japan, and there'd be no way that would ever pass in the States. Their eggs are tested, and they have requirements for their chickens and their nesting processes to prevent salmonella, and all the eggs are tested before they are sent out to local cafes or whatever. Eggs are a big part of their culture there, so they test everything. So you'll never get salmonella eating a raw egg there, which I think is incredible. Things I would try when you're there, try ramen. And I'm talking about authentic, hole-in-the-wall location ramen. It's life-changing. Udon is also very good, but it's very similar. The noodles are just bigger. Shockingly enough, sushi was not a big part of the culture when we were there, but it might not have been in season either. Okay, excuse the coughing fit I just had. But yeah, I didn't actively seek out sushi there or anything like that, but it wasn't on our itinerary. So I didn't think of it. I didn't think of it while I was there. But I'm sure it's delicious. Would I go back? Absolutely. It's a plan of mine to go back before our passports expire in 10 years. So we will go back. If you're going to go on a guided tour. I think it's worth it. And you get to see a lot of things and you get to experience a lot of different things. But going on a guided tour is definitely worth it because it is a lot. There's a lot to see. There's a lot of history. But having someone there to kind of guide you and help you is a very, very, very big factor in that. Because like I said, they're not Western culture. So if you just go, you're going to struggle because not everyone speaks English. So it's going to be very hard for them and for you to kind of communicate. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed these pictures. Again, sorry for the ending of coughing. But go to Japan. It's worth every penny. You'll have an absolute blast. Pictures are incredible. The people are incredible. The culture is fantastic. There's a lot of rich history there. So when you can, if you can, take time out of your life and go to Japan. You'll never forget it. I never will. And I plan to go back, and I can't wait to go back. And that experience was definitely life-changing for me. So, that being said, thank you all so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this video with somebody that you think wants to go to Japan, and maybe this will help them kind of get going. But until next time, everybody, peace and love. Talk to you all later.